Hey again, everybody. Creechboo back again tonight. So this is just a quickie. I mean, I covered some of this, I think, in another video, but a few things have come up since then that I've become aware of. Let's just say unsafe practices, I guess, that I've discovered that people kind of been getting into. So I'm going to do another little quickie video about tattoo tubes, needles, different styles. Anybody interested in getting tattooed might be particularly interested in this video because it could be, extremely helpful to you. A couple things to watch out for. So there's basically a few different style, tattoo tubes out there. Again, like I have these are called tube stems. We'll start here, I guess. They're basically just obviously like the stem of a tube without a grip on it. There's different kinds you can get. Like I personally, I buy from a couple different companies. If there's something on sale or something, I'll buy from one particular company. There's basically two tattoo companies I actually do business with. These particular ones right here, these blue ones, are from Technical Tattoo. And they have almost like a little kind of like a notch on the tube stem right there. So when you put, and I'll show you the grips in a second, and these I get from Unimax. Again, so the color doesn't really matter. What you really want to look for when you get products like this, like tube stems or needles in tubes or your needles, is they should have like a little blue indicator inside the packaging that indicates it's been through a sterilization process. And again, with your needles, like right here is a 15 mag, by the way, if anybody, nice rake. But again, you can see that it's got a little indicator that goes from brown to blue when it's been through a sterilization process. And basically these require, there's a couple different style grips you can get to put on these. What I normally use are these steel ones. Obviously, since these are out of the packages, I'm going to have to sterilize these again. But basically, you just kind of slip these over the tube stem, and they just tighten down, kind of like I have set up on this one right here, this little direct drive. This is, again, my little 14 round beater needle, but I just kind of wanted to, have that kind of set up for you so you can kind of see what that would look like. There's other different style. Like I bought these little green, these I never even used yet. These actually do need to get sterilized. So these are just rubber grips. Basically with these type of grips, they say they're either reusable or disposable. Personally, I don't use enough steel anything that I got rid of my autoclave like years ago. But I do chemical freeze sterilize stuff with like Sidex. And when I say chemical sterilization, there's only a couple different chemicals you can get that'll actually sterilize stuff, and that doesn't include peroxide, bleach, or rubbing alcohol. You need to get specific things that usually only have a 28-day life cycle. So these anyway I bought. I haven't used them yet. The reason why I actually like the steel ones is it gives the weight of like the older style steel tubes, and I haven't used these in like years, but back like when I first started tattooing, these were pretty much like the industry standard, the all steel. And fortunately, the best thing they did ever come out with in the tattoo industry was these, either plastic or Lexan. Sometimes you can buy the tube separately. Sometimes, like in this case, I get the needles come right in it. And again, oh yeah, it's kind of hidden, but there's a little indicator in there. Ah, damn it. Shit, it just slipped underneath the tube. But anyway, so this, yeah, there it is. You can kind of see it right there. Kind of slipping on me there. But anyway, so you can obviously see that these have been through a sterilization process when you buy these things brand new. There's other things you can get too. So like when you would say buy these like twisty grips, you can get stuff like these. You can get these disposable tube tips. So you would basically it would be almost like one of these twisty grips. These are some steel tube stems that I haven't used yet. So, all these need to get sterilized before I would use them. And again, I don't really use them enough, but So I have a little set right here with the, so basically you get the steel tube stem that goes in, these little disposable tube tips fit in the end there, and then you just kind of tighten those down as you would with the tube stem. And then there's, you know, your general cartridge tubes, and this has the little plunger bars you can see right in it. Again with these, now this one I think I paid like 10 bucks for. It's not disposable, so these have to get sterilized. But they do sell these, and they have like a twist to them, so they would almost kind of look like this, but again for cartridges. Basically they sell those things, and they're usually a lot of money. Like I've seen like Cheyenne stuff, just the grip itself for like upwards of 60 bucks plus. And again, when these first started coming out, when they did come out with the twist grips, they would advertise it that it would adjust your stroke length, which it didn't. It just adjusted how far the needle comes out, pretty much like a pen. So again, basically false advertising. So you can save yourself a lot of money and just get one of these normal ones. And basically to adjust how far the needle sticks out, you would just, you know, like undo your tube vise, which would be like this, and just pull the tube back or forth and literally save yourself like tons of money. So those are just a couple different things, and these are like pretty much the standard. You know, a lot of people would ask, well, why would you get something like this that you have to go through the sterilization process anyway and just get like the tube tips? Well, these particular ones, I started doing some business with a different company that sells flat needles, which I really like, and they're hard to get a good variety of flats in the United States, but this one particular company that I found sells flats like in all sizes up to 15s for shaders. I love flats. Like that's what I learned where they didn't have mags back in those days. We used to, you know, I used to solder the needles on the bars myself. And I really like flats because you can kind of go into the tattoo almost like it doesn't have to be at a perfect angle to get the whole, to have all the needles working. Like with a mag, since they're, like this is a 15 mag, and since there's 2 rows of needles, you basically have to have it, you know, I did another video on how to have that. So it has to be like no matter what you're tattooing. So if you were tattooing like that, you would have to just basically have it, you know, totally flat with the area to have all the needles working. The same with like a round. So again, these particular, like the all steel ones, and all right, let's go through this process first. So when I do use these, and also anyway, people would ask, well, why do you buy these steel things even with the disposable tube stems? Since, you know, you would think just getting the all disposable ones, obviously they are a lot more convenient. When you're done with the tattoo, all this stuff gets thrown away. So instead of having to sterilize anything, why wouldn't you get this? I particularly like the weight of these, especially when I'm using rotary machines. That's why I would get like the steel grips, and you know, just the disposable tube stems. But a lot of people make the mistake of, just because you're throwing away that tube stem, which granted is the part that gets, you know, that and the needle should definitely always get thrown away. These are obviously reusable, you know, I mean, these grips themselves cost, I think, like 10 bucks. So I'm not going to throw these away. But a lot of people don't feel the need to sterilize these. And when you're using gloves and you're getting ointment, body fluids, and whatever on these, you do have to go through like a whole cleaning and sterilization process that a lot of people tend to avoid because they think, well, that's not the part that's really getting any blood into it, but yes, it does. So what you would want to do, and I have just a small one because, again, I don't use these enough anymore that I, you know, if I do like, say 3 or 4 tattoos a day, you know, like maybe I'll use these for like one, because usually I generally use my coil machines all the time, so I always use all disposable stuff with the coil machines generally. So I have this real small ultrasonic cleaner, and ultrasonics are crucial to have. You can get them different sizes. This is, again, is you know, a small one, just enough basically for, say, 2 of these, you know. So basically you put these in this little basket that comes with them. Like I would fill this with boiling hot water, even just dish soap or whatever is fine. Then you would put the basket in it, And then I don't have this plugged in. I have a whole other area that I generally do all the sterilization stuff in. I didn't want to drag everything in my little office space per se. And then you just run this through cycles. Like this has up to like a 5 minute cycle. So I would run it as much as possible. And what happens with these ultrasonics is there's little electrical waves that go through the water that really clean stuff that you normally wouldn't get. And I should say, before you even go through the process of the ultrasonic cleaning, like back, say, even with these, like these particular ones with the steel stems, you take like a little tube cleaning brush like this. So you guys can see that good. You can get little brush sets that have different sizes, you know, for your liners and shader tubes. You really want to like run this through the tube and get as much stuff out of it as you can. Then for the grip itself, you know, like a wire brush, something like this, to get the majority of the grime off of it. Any, you know, and you got to really kind of scrub these, make sure there's no ink or anything on them. Then take like a softer one at the end to just kind of like fine tune it. So you would do this before you actually put it in the ultrasonic. Then after the ultrasonic process is done, you take it out of the ultrasonic cleaner. And then, like for me, again, I use chemical sterilization now because I don't really do enough with it. And the thing is, with chemical sterilization, it's a freezing process. So as opposed to like a dry heat sterilizer or an autoclave, which is heat under pressure, it just basically freezes everything, which would kill all like any kind of bacteria or whatever. But again, just because if someone's out there and you're getting like these disposable tube tips, you know, these get thrown away, granted, but you still have to, if you're using anything steel or anything at all that's reusable, you do have to like actually put it through a pretty intense cleaning process and sterilize it afterwards. And one big no-no that I see guys doing, and I literally walked into a studio, or I think I saw a video actually, probably on this, and this guy had somebody going into his shop, and he had, you know, a machine kind of set up like this. This is a cartridge machine I got. Basically, just took it out of the box with the tube on it like this, and put his cartridge in, and you know, off you go. So basically, somebody came in, he picked up his machine, you know, with gloves on. The guy did have, I will say that much, but you know, this was already out. This tube wasn't in any kind of a pouch or anything. He just popped his cartridge on, you know, and started going. So unless this tube is bagged, it's not sterile. You know, just because you have it in a box and it might be clean, it's not sterile anymore. So if you were like to walk in someplace and you were just to pull out a machine like that, like I just have it boxed up like this just for demonstration purpose. But yeah, I mean, you can't just get away with stuff like this, you know what I mean? And a lot of times, like with cartridges, like this again is a cartridge machine, a non-adjustable tool, because I'm not going to spend the money on an adjustable when they don't really, and this has a non-adjustable 3.5 millimeters, so I generally use this just for gray wash. But yeah, I mean, you would not want to have somebody just taking a machine out of a box like that and, you know, popping a cartridge on it and going to work on you. Like, that should be bagged. The reason why I always tell people to make sure, like if you're interested in getting a tattoo, to make sure that people have the right sterilization stuff. Now, if you were to, say, walk into a studio, you know, I got these in these bags like this or whatever, and you think, yeah, all right, that's safe, it looks sterile, you know. The thing is, like, I can buy these bags, which I have a box of right here. So, like, I buy these bags, and after it goes through the sterilization process, you know, I just bag these myself, as does every other tattoo artist. So it's important, like, if you're interested in getting a tattoo, that you ask somebody to actually see what they're using for a sterilizer. You know, don't just take anybody's word for it, because again, you know, your life literally depends on this stuff, and it doesn't really take much. And for anybody out there getting into the tattoo business, like I've always said, all it takes is one infection, giving somebody one disease, and it'll ruin your career before it even gets started. So, you know, don't cut corners. I always find, like, I see tattoo kits for sale, and it says, everything you need to start tattooing. None of them ever have sterilizers with it, or even like a ultrasonic or anything like that. So again, tattoo kits that say they're complete kits, that's all you need, they're generally not. Another big thing that's super dangerous are these little ink cup holders. I never personally use them. I don't even know how I got this one, but I've never used it. Like even this, it's steel, so if I were to put ink cups in this, if I'm dipping the ink in a cup and, it's going to get spatter, I'm sure, on it. So there's, it's going to be body fluid and it's going to be infected. So this too, if I were to ever use this, would have to go through the same thing, the whole ultrasonic, and then be sterilized after each use. These are, basically a waste of money. I mean, personally, I'll just take an ink cup, and when I have my Vaseline out or whatever, I just take the ink cup, as I've done another video, and just plop it down on a little disposable tray that I pick up. They all get thrown away at the end. So these are, just a couple of, super important things to kind of look out for if anybody out there, is interested in getting a tattoo, or if you're out there tattooing, certainly follow this kind of things. One thing I will say, since I do these in a chemical sterilization, there really isn't like indicator strips that would turn blue for a chemical sterilization process like that. So again, if someone's claiming that they would use a chemical sterilant, ask to see it. You know what I mean? Don't be, if you're a potential client, you have the right to ask questions. You know what I mean? You certainly have the right to be safe. And if you feel unsafe, walk out. Nobody says that you're there. You have to stay and, get tattooed. You have that right to, walk out if you feel unsafe. So yeah, just a couple of things I kind of wanted to go over with you. Again, that huge, don't ever let somebody just take this out of a box. Like generally this tube is off this, and I just have the machine itself in the box without the tube on it. The tube is, pouched and everything. And also, personally myself, I keep all these things, my needles, except for like a little stash that I keep on my desk for just quick access. But generally, like the bulk storage, like all my tubes and stuff, I'll keep in a stainless steel refrigerator, which is in another area of my shop here. Because like changes in temperature, especially heat, you can actually, like the packaging will grow microorganisms on it. But if you keep it at like a cool, steady temperature, granted they are, sealed and whatever, maybe that's a little overkill, to keep everything in a refrigerator, but, I don't know, better safe than sorry, I guess, you know what I mean? So I personally keep like the bulk of everything like in a refrigerator, so it stays at one cool temperature. There's no risk of like microorganisms even growing on the packaging, so everything inside will kind of stay sterilized. But yeah, so definitely need an ultrasonic cleaner. Everybody out there tattooing, unless you're just using this stuff all the time, and this, like I say, just the disposable everything, they have the grips. They're usually just these one-piece things, and sometimes you can buy them just the grips separately that are just plastic or Lexan, all disposable, which are awesome, and sometimes like the ones I buy just have the needle, the needle right in it, and it kind of says like this is a 9 mag curve. I think I did another video on like curved needles as opposed to straight magnums and flats and this and that. And so yeah, I just got this little, I'm just gonna cover this super quick. So somebody asked why I never did a video on tattoo machine voltage. And by the way, I leave my email in the description of most of these videos. So if you guys have any questions, like feel free to email me. You know what I mean? Potential clients, anybody out there tattooing, if you have any questions. So I have this little directory. I mean, this is like when I was talking about how they have these little, to adjust your stroke length. I don't know if you're going to be able to get that, but they have numbers on these, so they're kind of easy to set. And I have this set as a 4mm, so that's like my shader. So basically, someone was asking me about voltage. So it depends a lot. Like with coil machines in particular, they generally run on higher voltage than like rotaries do, and Like generally, it's kind of really hard to predict that because if you're using like a different size wrap coils, it'll affect your voltage. Actually, the material of the frame will affect the voltage. Like I always say, if you're buying coil machines, generally like the simpler the frame, the better. I wish I still had mine out here. I already put them away, but just simple frames. You know, if you get those big ghetto fab frames that look like dice or anchors or pot leaves or whatever, it's going to take more electricity going through those frames, so that will like affect your voltage. And again, like between like an 8, 10, or 12 wrap coils, but generally like on a coil machine, they will run on higher voltage than rotaries. So like usually most of my coil machines, like I don't know, I generally run them, I guess say pretty much mostly between like 8 and 10 volts on most of them, some under. And again, your spring tension will play into effect on that. What I will say with rotaries is you don't want to burn your motors out with rotary machines. Coils last forever. Like if you get a good set of coils, they'll literally last you forever. I have like a 1976 Joe Kaplan shader that's still got the original 10 wrap coils on it. But this particular little direct drive I have right here, I mean, this is like on 5 volts. And again, I always tell people, maintain them, a little bit of oil on the bearings. So that's running really good on like 5 volts. If you start running rotary machines like over 7 volts, you're going to cook the motors on them in pretty relatively quick period of time. So you really want to keep your voltage lower on any kind of rotaries. And it doesn't matter if it's like a German motor, if it's a Swiss motor, if it's a Chinese or Japanese motor. If you start running coil machines, on 8, 10 volts, you're going to smoke the motor in no time. And trust me, I've learned this lesson when I first got into rotaries, because being so used to the noise of the coil machine, I always thought that the rotary should be, louder. And now I get them so they're virtually noiseless. Like I say, just a little dab of oil on the bearings will certainly save the life expectancy and keep your machines running really nice. And again, so that's 4 millimeter, and you can probably see right there that little gap in that armature bar is probably about a nickel. See if I can capture it out better. No, maybe not, but you can kind of see it from the side. So that's the gap you're looking for again when that armature bar is moving back and forth. So that should be about a nickel width, which it probably, I'm sure, is, and that's a 4 millimeter. That's what it's set on. So yeah, again, just a couple things. I mean, I personally don't know anybody. I have a ton of these all stainless steel grips and tubes that I've had, for years and years and years. I haven't used them in forever. You guys can save yourself some money. Again, don't spend $60 on a cartridge twist grip with the expectation it's going to adjust your stroke length, because it doesn't. It's just flat out false advertising. And, again, ultrasonic, clean, can't be too clean. So I guess that's about it for me tonight, guys. Again, thanks so much to all my, subscribers. I hope you guys all have an awesome Christmas. I'll leave my email. You can check me out on Facebook, Drop Dead Ink. On Instagram, which I'm seldom on, it's Drop Dead Ink Custom Tattoo. Or right here, but again, I'll leave my my email. So by all means, potential clients, anybody interested, even if it's not with me, if you're interested in getting a tattoo and you have safety concerns or questions, by all means, feel free. I'd be happy to answer your questions. All right, as always, think ink. See ya.